Hey friends, it's Danielle with Take Care Mama, and today I'm talking about my Q1 reading wrap up. I'm proud to say that this video is sponsored by MyVitalC. Ever since COVID hit last year, I have been having trouble sleeping. I'm staying up later. I'm waking up a lot during the night, and I was so excited when they reached out with their product. I just started taking this and I love it. They have me like graph my sleep to see if there are significant changes. And so I will be talking about this at the end of my study, but it is basically olive oil with ESS60, and that is supposed to help you sleep better. So again, I'm really excited. I take a tablespoon a day of this, and I would just like to sleep better. So I'm excited to talk more about this in a little bit. Look out for that. And I will link all the company's information below. Okay, Q1, January, February, March, I read 25 books. I am shocked. I am shocked. My goal for the year is 50, which was already a very ambitious goal for me. And if I keep up at this pace, I'm gonna hit 100, which I've always wondered how people do that. And you know, it's not that hard. I read 50 pages of physical books a day, and also listen to about one audiobook a week. So it's about one physical book and one audiobook a week is kind of what that ends up being, and it's been awesome. I'm so excited to share this with you. So I'm gonna share a couple stats, and then I'm gonna tell you my 5 favorite books. I feel like that's what all the cool booktubers do. And I will look below in the description to see links to everything and different timestamps if you're just interested in one of the books I'm going to talk about. So stats, again, 25 books. 9 of the 25 were audiobooks, which I was just talking about. And again, I read about 50 pages physically a day. I don't know how long it takes me. I would really like to time myself, but I do think I'm a slower reader than the average person. I really don't like to miss anything, and I have this issue where I often go back to double check that I didn't miss anything. As far as ratings go, I was so surprised to find out that I had more 5 stars than any other rating. I had 40% 5 stars, 36% 4, 20% 3, and 4% 2. So that is awesome. I read a lot of 5-star books. I would not have guessed that. I would have guessed that my number 1 rating was 4 stars. As far as genre goes, my number 1 was nonfiction, though it's a little bit misleading because nonfiction is so broad. We could narrow that out into like self-help, memoir, spiritual topics, like learning about a certain topic. But if we just call it nonfiction, that was my most read book at 32%. In second is a 3-way tie between horror, mystery thriller, and fantasy. Third is what I call contemporary fiction. P.S. It's really hard sometimes to put a book into only one genre, so I had some trouble. And then my least read was YA. I think only a couple books for YA. After this quarter and kind of reviewing and looking, I would like to read more contemporary fiction. I really loved most that I read. Contemporary fiction, literary fiction, and I really love horror. So I kind of want to focus on those two along with nonfiction. I think I will always love nonfiction. Let's get to my top 5 favorite books of the quarter. These aren't in any particular order. The first is Bunny by Mona Awad, I think is how you say her name. This, again, it's hard to pick one genre, but I would say horror. And one of the reasons why I love this book is it's very feminine. For me, and most of the horror books and stories I've consumed, it's been from a lot of masculine energy, and this is not that at all. All the main characters are female. There are males in this book, but they are very like in the shadow or submissive almost. It's all about the women. We are following a young woman named Samantha who is at a prestigious program to get her Master of Fine Arts. She wishes to be a writer, and she's in this small workshop, and it's only the professor, herself, and 4 other females who are very close to each other, and they call each other Bunny, and it's creepy. They all dress similarly with like pink cardigans and pearls, and it's very like Stepford Wife vibes and weird, and some weird sexual energy. And Samantha has always kind of made fun of them with her best friend, and the bunnies kind of get to Samantha and suck her into their world, and there are some scary, weird things. This book is weird. If there was a genre called weird, I would call this book weird instead of horror. Horror/weird. I loved it so much. It was right up my alley. I'm terrified of bunnies now. And she has a book coming out this summer, which I am planning on pre-ordering because I just really loved her writing, and the dialogue in this book was so good. So if you haven't read Bunny and you like weird and you like horror, I definitely recommend this book. The second book I'm going to talk about is Anxious People by Frederick Backman or Bachman. I'm still confused about how to say his name. Please correct me if you know. He is a Swedish novelist. This is my first book of his, and I loved this book so much. I think I read this in January. It was one of my first books read, and oh, I loved it. I am calling this contemporary fiction for this video. This is a book about a person who is going through some hard times, and they decide to rob a bank. It doesn't go well. They run from the police, and they end up taking refuge in an apartment showing. So there's a realtor in an apartment, people looking at an apartment. The bank robber comes in, shuts and locks the door, and kind of holds those people hostage as the police try to get the situation under control. This book is all about the characters, and it's lovely, it's quirky, it's weird. I laughed multiple times out loud while reading this book and also cried. The side stories will just melt your heart and make you smile, and break your heart and make you cry. The cops are a father-son team, so they have their own side stuff going on, and the bank robber story, a lot of the stories kind of are intertwined, and oh, it is so good. So good. I am very excited to read more from this author. I already have 2 books that I've purchased that I found at the Goodwill, and I'm really excited to hear more of what he has to say. All right, let's talk about The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. This, I don't know what I tagged this book as far as genre. It's a fable. It's a spiritual fable, and it is right up my alley, kind of new age-ish themes. And we are following a shepherd boy in Spain, and he meets an old mysterious man telling him if he goes to the pyramids in Egypt, he is going to find his personal treasure. And it's just so good. Nuggets of truth in here. It's pretty short, 167 pages-ish, and it is so good, and I cannot wait to read this again. I'm so happy to own a copy. Next, we have An American Marriage by Tahari Jones, also contemporary fiction, which is why I want to read more in the future. Oh my goodness, I loved this book so much. We are following a young Black couple in Georgia, present day time, and the husband is accused and convicted of a crime which he didn't commit. And it's a harsh crime and a harsh sentence. And this is the story of how they go forward in their marriage with their family. I think they were only married a year or less when this went down, and their marriage wasn't perfect, as no one's marriage is, but there were already some rocky things within their marriage. And then he's sent to prison, and this book looks at like what they do going forward. Do they stay together? Does she stay faithful? Does she wait for him? And his journey in the prison system. It is so good and so realistic. To me, what I'm going to say next is really obvious if you read the synopsis. So skip this if you want to read it and don't want to know anything. But a love triangle comes up while he's in prison. And what I love most about this book is you really don't know who to root for. At least I didn't. Every character in here is a good person and is doing the best they can. It's not his fault he went to jail. It's not the wife's fault. It is not the third person in the love triangle's fault. They all want the best, and all of them are flawed. And the author isn't shy about showing each character's flaws. And I think I love this because that's how I believe most of us are. Most of us are really good people trying our best, and also all of us are flawed. And so I thought this was just realistic, and if there was a villain and a hero and we knew who we were rooting for, that would have been fine. But I think that would have simplified the story, and the harsh reality is this happens every day to really good people, and there are really hard choices to make. I loved this book. And again, this is the first book that I read by this author, and I'm really excited to check out more of her work. The last book I'm going to talk about is Quiet, my one nonfiction that made the top 5 of Q1 2021. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. Oh my goodness. I will be rereading this book. I am an introvert, a very strong introvert. I am an INTJ, and the I is a capital I, font 100. And I've always known about that myself, or I should say I've known for quite a while. And I thought I was pretty confident in my introvertedness. And I learned so much from this book. And insecurities of mine were brought up that I didn't really think about as insecurities. They were kind of in my subconscious. And she laid out that those features of myself are tied to being an introvert. And I just kind of felt more free. I felt more seen, even though I don't know this woman. She just talked about my personality so perfectly, and it made me feel less alone and less ashamed and less insecure about it. There are so many things I learned. One of them that sticks out is a lot of introverts are very sensitive people. And when I say sensitive, I don't only mean with our emotions, but with our 5 senses. And my son actually has been diagnosed with sensory processing disorder. I suspect he gets that from me. I suspect I have it as well. I have a really hard time with lots of loud noises. I have a hard time with bright lights, and I never realized that that is tied to introvertism. And that is why often if I'm out in public or like at a fair, a concert, something with a lot of stimuli, I really need to retreat into quiet and by myself afterwards to recharge. I just never knew how closely those two things were related. She also talks a lot about the education system and how it is really geared toward extroverts right now. I think it started as an introvert's world in education when we think back to like old school classrooms, everyone at a desk by themselves doing their work independently, and not everyone learns like that. So they went to more group work and collaboration and desks together, and that's great and awesome because a lot of people do work better that way. But introverts work better independently. And so I think it was just interesting to see how society ebbs and flows through these issues. And I'm reading this as COVID is still a big part of our lives. My son has actually done excellent during COVID learning. I mean, distance learning wasn't fun, but as he's back in school, the desks are separate. He has his own space, 6 feet on either side. It's more independent work. My son is a lot like me, and I think he's really flourished through these restrictions, and it's just really interesting. So I'm hoping that educators take note of the kids who've done well and just learn from what we've had to do with COVID, and I hope that some changes can be made. Group work is great and independent work is great too, so I hope there can be more of a balance going forward. I cannot recommend this book enough. I really would love my husband to read it to both understand me and my son better, and I'm just really excited. So those are my top 5 books that I have read so far in 2021. I'd love to know what you have read recently that you love. I love getting new ideas from all of us. Thank you again to MyVitalC for sponsoring this video, and look out for a future video for me talking about my sleep and the end of my little experiment taking this supplement. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye guys.